Hey, welcome back. For a long time, we've been advising people who are getting involved in aviation, whether they're student pilots, whether they want to be recreational pilots, whether they want to fly for the airlines, maybe buying the airplane is a good idea at whatever stage you're in. And fortunately for you, we have tracked down the fabulous Eric Pittman, who's a good friend of the show and a subscriber. You are a subscriber, right, Eric?
Of course, Pat Brown made me subscribe. He reached out to me, and I
Perfect.
had to.
You are a great case study, though. I mean, you and I met a few years ago in Naples, Florida at an event, and we've been talking back and forth ever since. You were a student pilot and you were making progress and then not, and then making progress and then not, very much like so many of us, like me when I started. And somewhere along the
Mhm.
line, you decided, yeah, it does make sense. Buying an airplane makes sense. And like most of us who buy that first airplane, it wasn't the first airplane you looked at that ended up being the one you took home, was it?
Oh, absolutely not. I looked at so many airplanes, and like my flight training, I looked for a while, then I stopped, and I looked for a while, and nothing was really coming to fruition with that. So then I would stop and start again, and until I was able to find something that fit my mission and fit my budget.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Fit your mission, fit your budget. It's not as cut and dried as people think, but eventually you did find one. And what made you decide on the Cessna 150, which is what you ultimately bought? Was it the price? Was it location? Was it the condition of the airplane? Was it mission? What was the primary thing that pulled the trigger for you?
It was a little bit of all of that. It was within a good distance from me. I didn't have to have it ferried or brought to because I wasn't a pilot yet when I bought it. But I wouldn't have to have it ferried a long way, or it wasn't a remote location where I knew nobody could look at it for me. The price was right. Like you said, I had initially started looking at other aircrafts. When I started my journey, I wanted to buy like a Piper Cherokee 140 or something like along those lines.
And that's what you started your training in, right? You were in a Cherokee 140, so you were looking for something you were familiar with.
Absolutely, yeah. That's what I started looking at because I was familiar with it and I knew the capacity would fit my mission and things like that. But then, just like everything else, the prices of airplanes skyrocketed, and so it kind of made me shift my parameters of what I was looking for. So I did. I found a 150. Never flew a 150 before. Had no experience in it whatsoever. But I knew it still would fit my mission and for the right price.
And how did you feel the first time you flew it? I assume you went with a flight instructor. Did you have a sense of, oh, this is too weird, or did you adapt to it pretty quickly?
No, I adapted pretty quickly. Yeah, I had to have 1 hour of instruction for the insurance, and my insurance company required me to have 1 hour instruction before they would let me fly it, since I had no time in a 150.
An entire hour. Your insurance company wanted an entire hour. That's amazing. So that was one of the great hardships of life. It was very difficult to climb that hill, right?
I was super difficult. Yeah, it was so hard to do that. But yeah, I went up with the flight instructor and just really got a feel for it. And it really wasn't any different than what I had been flying. Went from a throttle quadrant to the plunger style throttle. That's really about the major differences. But a lot of the same stuff was a lot of the stuff was the same.
Now, how do you see that fitting your mission? And maybe if it's not too personal, what is your mission as you see it right now?
So right now, my mission is I got my private and I'm ready to move on to my instrument training. So with instrument, you need about 50 hours of cross country time, which is perfect in a one that 150. Burns really low gas. It's about 5 gallons per hour, which is perfect for a first plane owner. Um, it's really 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 economical. Is what I was looking for.
It's a good word, and you use it well.
Thank you. Yeah. So, and then, so not only building time, but I wanted to be able to go places and see things that, kind of make the world a little smaller and be able to check out a lot of really cool aviation related items and to see family and, all the things, go get that $100 hamburger, all the things that you dream of when you're getting your pilot's license.
Being an airplane owner, and as I said, when we met, you were like the perpetual student, and I was too. I mean, I played around at getting my license for about 3 years before I really got serious and did it. But do you find that being an owner and having your own aircraft changed your attitude or your perspective or how you felt you were perceived by other people at the airport?
Yeah, there's definitely a camaraderie, among aircraft owners, especially at the airport. But yeah, it's just this really good feeling knowing that you own an airplane, and if I want to go fly, it's sitting there waiting on me. I don't have to worry about schedules or rentals or if the flight school will allow it or a student they need it for a student. It's mine and ready, available for whenever I need or want to go.
One of the things I really like about owning, and I didn't even think of this before I owned my first airplane. I'm just that dumb, Eric. I can go for an overnight and I don't have to pay the daily minimum. And it's not like that happens a lot, but if I decide I wanted to fly up your way and spend some time, maybe outside 99 South Carolina at Tom Richard's great place. Um, oh,
96 South
I'm
Carolina.
sorry. Yeah, 96. It's such an
Yeah,
obvious name. I'm surprised I got that wrong. But and I was up there a while back. I saw you while I was up there. It's a great location.
yeah.
There's a bed and breakfast there. That's a classic kind of thing where maybe I'd say, I'll do a 3-day weekend. I'll fly up there. I'll hang out for a few days. I'll fly home. That's not really practical with a rental because I'm probably paying for 3 or 4 hours every day, whether I'm flying or not, even if the place will let me do the rental. Whereas if I own my own airplane, go ahead. If I decide to extend my stay for a day, great. If I decide to leave a day early, no problem. Being the owner really opened up the world for me. Have you found that, or have you not owned the airplane long enough to really go on adventures yet?
I'm not quite long enough to do that, although I have lots of plans this summer, and hopefully I'm going to record some, and you'll be able to see them on YouTube. Just my adventures are going places. But no, one of the things that I kind of along those same lines is that the from a maintenance standpoint, I'm much more in tune with my aircraft than I was ever renting an airplane. I know the maintenance records. I'm very familiar with how it was left whenever I put it away in the hangar. I like that a lot.
Was that a difficult thing to adapt to, or did you find that fairly natural?
Oh, I find it natural. Enjoy the mechanic side of everything. So
I like it. I like it a lot. Now, let's talk about the airplane itself, because one of the pieces of advice I often give, and I mean no disrespect by this, Eric, I tell people to buy the ugliest, cheapest, slowest airplane they can find because as a student, when you're building up to your instrument and commercial, you're building time, not distance. And your airplane really fits that qualification. It's not super shiny with beautiful paint. It doesn't have leather interior. It's not a glass cockpit. It's the exact airplane a lot of people would pass by and say, that's not for me. Did you find that you were disappointed, had buyer's remorse, or did you find, yeah, that's really exactly what I'm looking for?
not at all. I feel like I got a good deal because of that. I tell people it's an ugly airplane. It's not beautiful, and I mean it. Like you said, yeah, no disrespect to my airplane. I love my airplane to death, but it is not something you'd be like, wow, it's a really good looking airplane. But because of that, I feel like I was able to get a good deal. Really, honestly, all that matters is mechanically sound. It's going to be safe for me and my passengers getting to where we're going to go.
And one of the great things I love about this, and I really do admire you taking this leap, because that de-uglifying process, that's just an exchange of cash. Yeah, you want to get it painted? No problem. You can do that. You can even get a really exotic airplane paint job done. You want to put in new interior? No problem. You want to upgrade the panel, whether that's minor with just some newer radios or whether you go glass, all that's possible. It's just how much money do you want to spend and what's the value of the airplane to you then, whether it's to keep it or to resell it. But all of that's still out there for you. And really, for anybody who goes down this road, they could do the exact same thing. And again, I mean, no disrespect, but buy that ugly, inexpensive, slow airplane, learn, build time, have experiences, get some cross countries under your belt, learn how to do your own maintenance. And if you decide to upgrade it, man, I mean, there's no telling what that airplane's going to look like in 5 years, and it might be a whole different deal.
True, and honestly, to do those upgrades, like I said, it's just an exchange of money, but it also adds value to that airplane that you bought. It's not a depreciated asset. You're just adding value to something that you may sell later down the road and upgrade to, and so maybe it may be advantageous for you.
Yeah, the high school flying club that's right here near my house, they just bought a Cessna 152 that was fully upgraded. Nice paint, glass panel, got all kinds of bells and whistles, and they paid a pretty good amount of money, well over twice what you paid. And that's the kind of thing that you're exactly right. And when we do those upgrades, it's got greater value to the owner because the airplane's that much more attractive and utilitarian now. and it's more attractive to a potential buyer because now it's modern. It's
Mhm.
got what I want. But I'm so proud of you. You did a great thing. You took a big
Well, thank
leap,
you.
and it takes a while to find the right airplane. Let me ask you a little bit about that process, and I don't want to take up your whole day, but was the shopping experience harder than you expected, or did you feel you had good guidance or good resources that could help you make good decisions, or did you feel like you were over your head the whole time?
So yeah, there's a couple layers to that question. Resources, I had fantastic resources. I belong to the M0A Nation group. I have a lot of aviation friends that I could reach out and ask questions, and hey, what do you think of this? Or this is what the offer is. This what it's that was fantastic. The only thing was the time I was looking at airplanes was the time where people were scooping them up left and right, and I was financing it. So I financed my aircraft, and I had everything pre-approved, ready to go. But people would come in with cash, and it'd be gone within a matter of hours. Sometimes when you see an ad listing, yeah, even if you were trying to get you're looking for somebody to do a pre-buy, and somebody would come in and swipe it up. So that was a little frustrating on that point. But I think it was more so the time frame when I was buying my airplane.
So overall, you'd say you're pretty satisfied with this experience. You're glad you went down this road.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I love being an aircraft owner. There's just a good feeling. People at work think it's crazy that I'm able to afford an airplane, but honestly, it seems grander than it actually is. It's no more than owning a boat, but it's just for people who don't fly, it's a big difference for
Yeah,
them.
your airplane cost about what my motorcycle cost, and it's just
Yeah.
people think it's like, oh my god, I'm going to have to mortgage the house. Now you financed. I've generally bought with cash, but tell me about the financing part. Was it really challenging? Did you go through the local bank? Did you go through a place that finances aircraft specifically?
No, I looked at a couple of different things. Some places that financed aircraft specifically, but they were more interested in financing the $250,000 airplanes or the $500,000 airplanes. It was really difficult to get a loan through them for my aircraft. So what I ended up doing was doing like a personal
Hmm.
loan through a company, and I was very happy with that. Very pleased. I feel like I got a decent interest rate for the time, and that was a pleasant experience.
You're exactly right, by the way, about those companies that provide financing for aircraft. Generally, they want a higher dollar because there's a certain amount of effort that goes into it. So there's only a certain amount of profit in a given loan. And that's why they're in business,
Hmm.
to make a profit. And when they're down in the under $50,000 class of aircraft, there's really no profit to be made for them. So they don't want to do it. But that doesn't mean you're out of the game. The local credit union, the local bank, there are even cases where you can go to a relative and say, hey, we can draw up a contract and I'll borrow the money and pay you back monthly at X interest rate. So you're not out of the game just because you're not buying a citation jet. It's just sometimes you got to get a little bit more creative.
Actually, I know somebody who actually took equity out of their home and bought an aircraft that way
Oh,
too.
wow. See, I wouldn't even have thought of
Mhm.
that, but that's great. Eric, I really appreciate you coming and talking to us about this because you're proof that this really does work. You bought your airplane when you were still a student, you finished your private certificate in a different airplane, not in your own. And now you got checked out in yours and you're building your time and you're learning how aviation works and aircraft. You're making connections. You're the exact thing that we really try to tell people on Mad Props Aero. You've transitioned from being an Aero wannabe to a real participant and quickly became the kind of person that somebody can come to and say, hey, Eric, you own an airplane. Can you tell me how this works? And man, I'm just so impressed with you. You've done a great job.
Well, I appreciate that, Jamie, and I thank you for your help and your support through my journey. I want to do that. I want to be that person that I would have wanted to meet when I was coming up and trying to figure out how do I do this aviation thing. And honestly, one of the decisions that led me to getting my own airplane was took a discovery flight, and I was had a few hours in. I was like, this is for me. The aviation is for me, and there's no way that I could imagine that not owning an aircraft is the right decision for me. I knew my goals I wanted to achieve and how many hours I wanted to build, and I was like, an aircraft is where it's
I
at.
love that. Man, you're doing it. You're really doing it, and it's absolutely fantastic. Is there anything you'd like to share with the massive, enormous, unbelievably large Mad Props Aero audience before I let you go live your life?
No, but I would just tell you, check every avenue that is available to you. It is very, very attainable to own an aircraft, and continue watching Mad Props.
That is absolutely great advice. I agree. And I will add on to that. People really should click the like button because it's almost a moral
Oh
imperative, I
yes,
think. Um,
yeah. And if you have not heard from Pat Brown yet, he will be calling you to subscribe.
He just might.
So,
And of course, comment on the videos and even ask questions below. Eric, you might be able to find him. If you've got a question about owning an airplane, Pat and I are happy to help you, but Eric might too. Grow your own network. Find out the information you need to know. And of course, subscribe to the channel because how are you going to hear great stories like Eric Pittman's story if you don't subscribe to the channel? So, with that in mind, let's let Eric get back to his life because I'm sure he wants to go fly his little airplane and you probably want to go do something. And we'll see you right back here in the future, real soon, on your personal device.